Good morning, everybody. John Sviokla here for GAI Insights in the Gen AI News Briefing, rating your news essential, important, or optional. And we have Luda and Paul, our regulars, and we have Vinay Gidwani from One Digital, as well as Ram Kadamaraja from Colaberry. So, and of course, Ankaj Honda helping us out today. So welcome, Vinay, Ram. Good to have you. And Ankaj, start us off with the first one, please.
Sure, thanks, John. So the first one that we have for today comes from Tencent, and it talks about reasoning efficiency redefined with their Hunyan T1 model.
Yeah, here we have this new model coming in, and remember, for those Mamba architectures scale much less aggressively in terms of compute need compared to the transformer model. So interesting here. Another important entrant by, well, I'm not going to say important, another entrant by our friends in China. What do you think here, Luda?
Yes, John, I rated it optional. This model actually has been released in February as a preview, and now they put it into the official version. They claim it's built onto ultra large scale model, but they don't say how big it is. It's at least 94 billion parameters, but I think it's way more, but they don't say. So they claim good performance, 2 times faster decoding step when you put the answer together. And if you see the board, it's really at par. There's some tests that they do better on, but the rest are really at par. So from that perspective, it's really like, an advancement of their prior version. But if I were an executive or AI leader in a company, I think I would want to know about these models from China coming up, especially big models. So for that reason, we might want to talk about importance, but since it's not open source or open weights, I thought it was optional.
All right. So Luda started optional, came close to saying important. Vinay, what do you think here?
Yeah, look, I think anything that's new models needs to be read. I know it's a lot out there, but this is such an interesting area, especially when it's coming from places like China, that you should definitely keep track of that.
So you'd make it important or essential?
Important, for sure.
Important. Ram, what do you say?
Yeah, I think it's more of an optional thing, primarily because one, like Luda suggested, they already released the preview. And then this particular article is more of it's more jargon rather than like the facts in there. But if you are a person who is like a scientist or a product lead, then it's definitely a important one for you to monitor it and read it. If you are a tech executive, it's more of an optional.
All right, Paul, where are you on this?
Oh, my view, 100% optional. I think U.S. leaders aren't looking to deploy China models, and they should expect all the models to get better. So optional.
Yeah, I'm close to where Vinay is in terms of important to read about these new models, but I just think this particular article doesn't tell us a lot. All right, optional is Ankaj, next.
Okay, the next one that we have for today comes from AI2, and it talks about code scientist, a step toward automated scientific discovery.
Yeah, here we go. The first part of my career was being an academic. Now, academics are in the crosshairs for being automated out. What do you think here, Vinay?
Yeah, it's an interesting article. It's kind of funny. It took me a while to sort of figure out what they were talking about when it came to the idea of designing experiments and running experiments, because clearly you're not sitting in a lab running an experiment. These are more computational experiments. I actually felt that this was somewhere between optional and important, because when you go through what they talk about with respect to how they generate ideas or put the human in the middle, none of those concepts are that new. So I never felt like in reading this that they had sort of stumbled upon some brand new way of thinking about how to use LLMs for scientific research. I'm pretty sure most scientists who are using AI are already actually doing many of these steps. I think they probably have just tied it into a nice bow and made it an out-of-the-box solution. But I really didn't think it was that that compelling.
Yeah, back in February, we reviewed Google's AI co-scientist, which I think is much more capable and actually generated stuff. I don't know. What'd you think here, Luda? Optional? Important?
Optional. Yeah, I'm with Vinay. It didn't cover any new ground, really. It's a combination of stuff that exists already in various products. So optional for me.
All right, Ron, we're headed for optional. Any objections?
It's an optional thing from my side also. However, it's an interesting paper to read if somebody is trying to, if an AI leader, a tech executive is trying to get a sense of how they can integrate or use Gen AI in a methodical format in their work, like if they're looking for some way of getting a scientific method as part of their implementing their products or projects. It's an interesting read for them, but from the as such, it's an option.
All right, optional it is. Pankaj, next.
John, one thing I just want to put a footnote. My aunt and uncle are both genetics professors at Princeton, and I was trading emails with my aunt down there, and I mean they're at basic research on genetic, and OpenAI's deep research is helping them find new novel ways for protein to bind. So this whole theory, John, of AI thought leadership as a scientist at the most basic advanced levels is very real. This is obviously a vendor announcement, but I did want to put that in the footnote.
Yeah, well, yeah, you buried the lead. Your uncle won the Nobel Prize, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, and the current administration is holding back $145 million worth of funding at Princeton until they review their anti-Semitic behavior.
It's directly affected their labs. It's non-trivial, these choices.
Oh yeah, we're closing down science in a lot of places. Things like children's cancer, which are obviously the place you want to cut. Anyway, next, Pankaj.
Okay, the next one that we have comes from Siemens. So Siemens Industrial Copilot is helping across industries.
Yeah, very interesting. This notion of creating generative AI agents around the Siemens SCL, controller language, which is proprietary to them, but basically is similar to other, control languages that are out there. What do you think here, Ram? And I want to come back to Luda in a minute too, because Luda was in the trenches competing with these guys at GE. So, Ram, what'd you think?
So I think it's definitely important, maybe even essential for AI leaders. Basically, the very interesting thing about it is this is about asset management, which is like a very important topic in a lot of industries, and there is a increased interest in deploying, basically augmenting your machines with sensors, collecting the data, and making and increasing preventative maintenance. So this particular one is a use case around Gen AI and predictive maintenance, and also, well, it's a product announcement by Siemens and on Microsoft Azure, like sort of thing. So that's kind of like okay, but regardless, the interesting data point that they have is they're able to save average 25% reactive maintenance time. That's a good data point. Not only that, I went to their website, Sensei Predictive Maintenance, which is from Siemens. They gave like a very interesting view of the whole, adoption of Gen AI and scaling. The thing is, they talk about not just one machine, but scaling it across the enterprise. So this is like good directionality, good use case for tech leaders to pay attention to and read. So I would say from that standpoint, it's at least important, if not essential.
All right, so we're on the border here between important and essential. Luda, what do you think?
Yeah, I certainly, Ram, grant you that this is a critical area for manufacturing. It is discrete or process manufacturing, especially for process manufacturing, because the line stops if something stops, if you have a malfunctioning piece of equipment. So, and it's very problematic area to equip with expert people. They're not out there readily. It requires a combination of skills that you can't really find. So for age immemorial, this was an area of trouble for manufacturers. And the fact that Siemens is putting these tools out is great. This article, however, didn't really explain it, didn't really go into any detail. And for that, I was thinking it's optional, Ram, but grant you the fact that the area is very critical.
Yeah, I would add to that, just echo something Ron mentioned briefly, is that big win for Microsoft, not only for it to be called Copilot, which we all have mixed feelings about, but also for the fact that it's hosted on Azure. Like there's so much in, AI is moving, generative AI is moving from like this nice, fun thing for people to use, as we all know, deeper into our economy. And they think this is another step of it being deeper into the industrial economy, and Microsoft winning every step of that way. So I think that's an important takeaway.
Yeah, I mean, I agree pretty much exactly with Luda in the sense of super important area. This particular article, not so much. So we're going to give it an optional, but important, essential area for sure. All right, next, Akash.
Okay, the next one comes from OpenAI and talks about how Hebbia's deep research automates 90% of finance and legal work.
Yeah, very interesting here. You get, I was thinking back to when I was an MBA student and teaching MBAs. So many of the young talent went through investment banks and consulting firms on their way to coming back to business school after a couple of years. And this would certainly be a Copilot, automation helper, if not fully automating their work. What do you think here, Luda?
I gave it an important, and it might be essential. What I liked about this article is how they did it. So, Ankash, if you go to the architecture chart over there down, so they realized that no, the schematic of it's a little further. Yeah, right here, above. Yeah. So what they realized, they used RAG originally and didn't like the quality and correctness of the answers. So you can't see it quite on the screen, but on the left, they decided to put a matrix together that has the document and the prompts essentially as a matrix, right? Per prompt, per document, there is a little square. And per each square, they put this thing on the right, with small agents pulling in information. And like there's a block that talks about hallucination and validation. So they find detection and validation. So imagine that for each document, for each prompt related to that document, they put this matrix together. No wonder the quality went up dramatically. So the architecture, and I wonder whether this is what we would need to do going forward to actually get the quality of the responses, especially in the industries like finance and legal, to be high. So I thought it is important for that reason.
Yeah, I was important and lean toward essential. I actually think this is an instance of what we're talking about in terms of the evolving semantic operating system, the ability to take a query, decompose it, give it to the right models, do truth finding at each stage, then reassemble it into an answer. I think that's the general high level semantic operating system for big complex tasks that we're seeing evolve. Our friends at Quantum Gears, do a similar thing like this for their clients. In terms of the overall architecture of, parsing the need and then turning that into a set of agents, and then those agents are matched to APIs, and those APIs go out and interrogate, and then there's a truth function after they return, the values, and then it's put together, and then there's another truth function before it's actually displayed, which I think is similar to what's going on here. But what did you think here, Vinay? I know you guys are deep in this field.
Yeah, I thought it was great. Like, I think that there's so much performance improvement that you can get out of rearranging agents in a different way and prompting in a different way, using multi-agent platforms in a different way. So I thought this was really interesting. I forwarded it right away to our team to take a look at. So I think it's absolutely wonderful reading for anybody who's in sort of the agentic AI world of trying to do business knowledge-based tasks.
All right. Pretty heavy endorsement there. What'd you think, Ram? You okay with Essential on this bad boy?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I immediately forwarded it to our team as well. It's a big shift.
We have a favorite here.
Double essential.
Yes, everybody is like looking to figure out how to get the agentic AI right. So there are a lot of frameworks out there that people are testing out. This is like a practical, basically implementation that provides like really good guidance.
I mean, I think that's a huge endorsement that you and Vinay both think that this is, that forwarded it right away to your folks, because, you're out building these, right? And so, Paul, you good with Essential on this bad boy?
Yeah, and I think I really appreciate Vinay and Ram sharing that. I mean, look what's happening, John. We've seen this dozens of times in the last few weeks here. Is because it's so hard to keep up. Having the AI leader sometimes in the business side realizing something, sharing it with their team is a really important part of staying current. So, definitely essential.
Yeah, John, I want to pitch in, and maybe Vinay and Ram can talk about it as well. So I see what's happening. There are semantic trees that are hard to build, but if you do it well, that's an alternative to what is being done here. Here, it's a real-time agent checking the validity and has evaluators, but they're built as you go, right? So it's much faster and much quicker. But I think the semantic trees probably can be much deeper. So this will be the competition between two of these frameworks. Maybe there will be others, but these are very currently prominent frameworks.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. And I'm not an expert in semantic trees, but I think that the hierarchical interdependence that's inherent in a tree structure, I think, is different. I think a lot of the semantics, especially in places that have real-time updates, like some of the documents here, are going to be more enacted in real time and kind of horizontal or network when you think about it, and that the tree structure is somewhat limiting. I mean, to me, I look at a tree as one projection of a network, and so then I think you get into a really interesting question of how much do you have to compute out the semantic structure to help the interpretation, you know what I mean? And you kind of get into Wolfram's work on that when he talks about the Rulliad, and you have to there are certain activities you actually have to compute to actually understand what's going to happen. I don't think we're at that level of complexity on these things. I think of it more as inductive semantics in the context of enacted logic, you know what I mean? So put another way, I think there'll be competing architectures.
Yeah, totally.
right.
Vinay probably has a view into it.
Yeah. Vinay?
And John, keep going with that. The only why not multiple architectures all the time? I mean, the only time there wasn't a tree and stuff because there was digital constraints on it. If you can have multiple trees and multiple semantic structures, more of a hybrid approach here.
Yeah.
Why do that?
Well, yeah, I think it's a combo of it's compute, but it's also the epistemology you bring into the representation of the problem. And that's why the object-oriented guys, I mean, talking to Alan Kay over the years, the reason they went with object-oriented, and a lot of the agentic stuff actually looks a lot like the sophisticated object-oriented stuff, which was they wanted to create a world of work where you could have passive, active, updated, static, information environments, if you will, with logic and decision-making capability within it. So it was much more it was much more biologic in terms of, and mathematical in terms of how they put it together. And a lot of the hierarchical stuff came out of the folks from a more hierarchical background, like the operations research and folks. That's why object-oriented programming and the internet is literally 4 or 5 orders of magnitude less code, because it's decentralized organic, not centralized hierarchical. So if you're working on a Windows machine, the code you're looking at is 200 to 400 million lines or more, because it's just a big garbage dump of hierarchy. And the core code for the internet is like 10,000 lines of code. I mean, just think about that for a minute. It's it's a very different semantic structure. So I'm rooting for decentralized emergent as the more efficient.
I think one thing also to add is that in a world of, if we just assume a world of super cheap and virtually unlimited compute, no reason why you can't be doing all these different approaches all at the same time.
Sure.
And having other systems review the performance of them. So you don't have to sort of tie yourself to one thing. It's, in the world of ubiquitous cognitive power, why not try all methods and see what's best?
That's a very
interesting when it comes to that.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly went heavy brute force, on the neural nets for sure. I think it will make a difference what the algorithms look like, because the ones that expand, quadratically or exponentially, can consume infinite compute. So it's going to be interesting what the algorithmic innovation looks like, because that gets whatever, if we want to do it in human time. Cool, awesome, essential. Next.
Okay, the next one that we have comes from Deep Learning AI, and they talk about LLM support for tutors.
Yeah, this is an area I'm starting to get interested in and have a lot of passion for. I think if we don't figure out how to use these technologies to help people understand these technologies, we're going to have a societal problem. But what do you think here, Vinay? It's an interesting little story about using better tutors.
Yeah, I agree with your general sort of statement that this is an important area for society to figure out in terms of AI and education, how teachers and students best make progress. At the same time, though, I didn't find anything in this article that compelling and interesting. It was totally again, it was one of those things where I'm pretty sure if you're a tutor of some kind, again, if you were using AI, you were probably doing all of these things anyways. So I didn't find anything that interesting in it. I did, I think the one takeaway is that as we look at some of these more human-orientated industries like education and healthcare, it's really not going to be about replacing the doctor completely or replacing the teacher completely. It's going to be about scale. So how can one teacher or one doctor serve so many more people than they are able to do today? And I think there's a couple of good examples in this around how, as a tutor, you could increase your scale and effectiveness across many students by using AI. And they have a couple of sort of concepts in here that I think are worth looking at, but totally optional. I didn't think this was a big aha for anybody.
All right, Ram, we're headed for optional. What do you think?
Yes, it's definitely optional because it's not a new concept. And I think Khan Academy is already testing it widely there. And also in our training programs that we deliver remotely, we integrated this a couple of years ago and have seen very interesting results in terms of the accuracy of support to the students. So there is generally a lot of use in terms of in providing better support and reducing the cost, but the topic itself is optional.
Yeah,
Luda, go ahead.
Yeah, I was in the seat of an AI leader for a large company, and I don't know whether this is, however rudimentary this is, and no interesting new ideas per se here, but this is sort of fundamental to implement within a company, because like we talked about maintenance, these people are the retiring, right? To get them to train other folks is not a trivial affair. And I don't think this is happening en masse. So for me, this is a very important topic. And I get like a lot of women knocking on my door saying, where do I start? I want to know about AI. I'm a professional woman. I want to get going, right? So how do you get these people effectively and quickly into what they want to know using AI? So we need an approach like this. So for that, I was thinking maybe we should flag as it important for people to implement more of these in the workplace. But this article may be optional, but the topic for me is very critically important for the scale up.
Yeah, interesting. I was disappointed in the results. They only improved the chances of somebody passing the test from 62% to 66%. And then the results didn't persist for the final exam, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
But
So maybe
yeah, I'm gonna indulge myself here and give this an important because the topic is so essential. Even though I would agree it's kind of a article. Alrighty, next, Akash.
Okay, the last one that we have for today talks about Jargonic, which is in Word's most accurate industry trend ASR model.
Yeah, I love their name, Jargonic. I mean, how great is that? Anyway, the as I understand it, there's two critical things that Jargonic adds to the existing models. One is to do ambient noise, so to help with recognition of words and so forth. And the other is intuitively getting at the language or any of the specific, domain-specific language without having to, create a dictionary and to train on that. So as I understand those two things, kind of interesting, and I think an ongoing affirmation of the notion of wrapping these models with new capabilities. But what do you think here, Ram?
Yeah, I mean, when I saw that, it immediately transported me to my first job in United States, where I had to spend so much of time like learning jargon, right, just to get assimilated.
Mhm.
So, and jargon is extremely important aspect of running a business, right? So, I feel that this is the essential read for tech executives, because they need to figure out how to integrate their internal, and also this jargon is like could be different from one company to the other company also. So it's important like for them to integrate it into their ecosystem. So I felt that it's really important.
All right, we get a vote for important here. Luda, you've competed in these industrial markets. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this is very important. A person with an accent talking to these bots, a lot of times they don't understand that. And if you start using terms from the industry, that's a lost opportunity there. So absolutely, this needs to happen, and they are pushing the envelope. So yeah, important.
Vinay?
I thought it was just, I agree, important. I thought it was fascinating on how, as we use these models to do different things, that we're starting to mimic how humans actually learn in the behavior. We don't go through thousands and thousands of hours of training in our minds as a child to understand jargon. It's very contextual. And if you've ever sort of watched a foreign film and sort of followed along or didn't follow along with the subtitles, it's all contextual, right? And so it's just interesting to sort of see how we're rediscovering human learning patterns in these sort of artificial systems.
Yeah, amazing. All right, important it is. Akash, have you given us the top board, Paul? I'm sorry, I didn't ask you, Paul. I'm assuming you're okay with important.
Yeah, I had it as optional because of product announcement, but obviously I will support important. One quick story: I spent a year in Japan working for a Japanese company, and half the time, Luda, I was just helping the Japanese understand the American jargon. They say, "Hit ball out of park." Why General Motors saying this? There's no ball. It was really
that's funny.
education on me and how much that is a part of business, Ron.
And there's such great baseball fans, anyway,
Yeah.
or baseball players as well. All right. Any announcements or anything, Paul? We're coming up near the end here. Want to hit the 30-minute mark?
Yeah, two announcements tonight. My sign up here. We have Boston. Can't really see it. Boston AI Week. We have 206. Or no, Boston AI Woodstock Boston networking event at Time Out Boston with 260 people signed up. And on Friday we have a planning session at our monthly call for Boston AI Week, September 26th through October 3rd, where we're going to have 100 AI related events throughout the city.
All righty. So we have one essential. Sorry. Before I get there, any other announcements? Vinay, Ram, Luda, Ankaj?
No.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah. So I just want to make one small remark. Like Vinay, when you're on this call, like last time you talked about AI coworkers. Since then, I'm seeing AI coworkers everywhere. So it's amazing.
Yeah, this is great work you're doing. And Vinay and I are going to write some more stuff on that coming up soon. So we have one essential, Hebbia's deep research automation, 2 importance, and 3 optionals. All right, everybody. See you tomorrow morning. Have an AI day.